Good evening, friends. This is John, and I haven't been on here for quite a while. As all you all know, I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness and considered apostate, and I have a daughter who is marred into it and has got her shun on me now for the rest of my life. Well, as y'all mostly know me, know that I lost my wife October the 29th, I believe it was, this past few months, about 6 or 7 months. October, November, December, January, about 6 or 7 months she's been left me. Anyway, I'm not on here to discuss that, but I'm on here to discuss a subject that a lot of husbands will never discuss to anyone, especially live, so everyone in the world can see it. It won't be in the newspaper, but it will be on here. I'm going to tell you this story because my wife has passed on, and it doesn't matter now about the good name she had or didn't have. All that matters now is that you are helping someone else by me bringing this out. This has never been told before on here by any Jehovah's Witness ex that lost his wife to this cult group that I know of. I'm only suggesting what I have seen since I've been on here. Now, my wife, from the age 12, was sick because at the age 12 she tried to slash her wrists. She did succeed where she had to get stitches and things. But now that was a signal that something was wrong in that home. Now, at that particular time, she was 12 years old, and I was not in her life at that particular time. When she was 12, I was 17, or maybe 16. But anyway, we got married when she was 16 years old, and I was 19. I was in the Navy, and I was stationed in Boston, Massachusetts, and Newport, Rhode Island, from 55 to 57. Now, we got married while I was in the Navy, and we had one child, the one that is presently AJW, my first daughter. Now, when I got out of the Navy, I found a job at the Naval Shipyard in Chester, Pennsylvania, if y'all know where that's at. But I was, I think, 21 at that time then. But life was hard. It was very hard. It was hard to get a job. It was hard to keep a job. It was hard to get an apartment and keep one. It was hard. But her parents were against me right from the beginning. Why? Well, there was nationality involved, one thing. That was the main thing, nationality. They looked upon me as something beyond what I was claiming to be, as they said. Now, back in them days, if you had curly hair, you were considered non-Caucasian. If you had any kind of curvature in your eyelashes, you were considered mixed up. Well, this is the life that I had to go through in the beginning, and eventually this all passed by after time. Me and my wife found a place to live, and we started our lives, and there was problems from day one. As time went on, my wife would develop these here hallucinations or something like that, where she couldn't get her breath, and she couldn't get her, she had to get a brown bag to breathe with. Now, she was, be about 18, 19 at that time, but this went on. And each time I had to rush her to the emergency room, several times. Then sometimes she was, wandering about, and couldn't find her way home, and she'd end up in a mental institute. That's what they call them back in them days. Well, they kept her there maybe for 2-3 weeks, and then they let them come home. But this went on, friends. This went on. It upset our lives. It upset everything. We eventually found ourselves studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, and we thought that would probably settle things for good, but it didn't. The same thing started up again after about a year or two, knocking on doors and going to meetings and the same old routine. State police were always involved in my life, at my home, coming to my home by her calling the state police or 911. That went on and on. In fact, friend, to tell you the truth, it went on up to the day she died. Calling 911. But she was calling 911 because she overdosed on pills many times. Wellbutrin, Prozac, Nortrim, or there were so many different kinds that I've lost even touch of some of them. They were antidepressants involved, and you name it. Every kind of mind medicine there was, she went through it. And this went on till one day she was in the hospital, and the doctor talked to me about her problem. He said, John, she has the mind of a 12-year-old girl. Well, now remember, she cut her wrist at 12. He said, that is the actual truth. She has the mind of a 12-year-old girl. And at that time, she was like 23, maybe 24. I don't know the exact age, but she was, say, like in her 20s. Now, eventually, as time went on, through all the institutions, all the mental therapy with shock treatments, she even went through that. She finally broke down and told me that she was molested as a child. She was molested from 5 years old up to 12 years old. Okay. Now it all came out that this is her problem. But being that is her problem, you can't correct that. In other words, the fire is lit now and it can't be put out. It can't be put out. The fire can't be put out. You can give them medication and so forth, but it only deadens the situation a little bit. It doesn't solve the problem. Families were involved. Her own family, they tried to help. Sometimes the word molestation came up, and there was argument about it, which never led to nothing anyway. It was nothing ever serious brought up that her stepfather caused her to be like this. There was talk about it, but it never came out. It just drifted away with life, and the problems continued. As we went into our 30s, our 40s, and our 50s, same problem. And then drinking got involved in it. If she would drink anything, it would cause a disturbance no matter where she was at. We could be out eating a meal or having going to a karaoke. She would start running her mouth, ready to fight. Well, this is all because of her being molested as a child. This is why I'm doing this video. It's because the truth is not out there yet. And the truth is all these children that are Jehovah's Witnesses are going to face this same damn problem that I faced for 60 years. 60 years I faced that problem of a molested wife. Now, there are some wives who get over that, but it's always there. In other words, some people can do one thing and nothing happens after that. But some people, once it happens to them, it'll never leave. It'll never leave. And it never left her. Child molestation destroyed her life. And this is where I'm coming to. It also destroyed mine. It destroyed my life of 61 years. It destroyed her life. Child molestation. We lived through it. So don't let none of these damn people in the Watchtower shun or cover up child molestation. Those kids are going to feel what happened to them when they get older and get married. It's going to come out eventually. If they believe in God, if they believe in His Word, and I really believe this part, that sex is a sacred thing, and once it is tampered with against all the things that God has set forth, will disturb that. And you will feel it the rest of your life. This is why they're so down on, well, I shouldn't have said that. But this is one reason why incest is frowned upon in most countries in this world. Incest. It is deplorable. It brings on deformed children. It brings this on. It brings that on. But I'm here to tell you my side of the story. It also brings on unhappy marriages. It brings on marriages that are carried out, but never ended. Always fighting, arguing, hardships continually with the results of child molestation. Child molestation is like cancer. Once it hits you, you ain't gonna hardly ever get rid of it. You might drown it down, but eventually it's gonna be there and then it's gonna pop up again. And I've seen my wife pass away in front of me when she got older and sicker with the Alzheimer's disease. And it seemed like to me that it was just a relative of child molestation. It seemed like to me they were brothers and sisters. Alzheimer's disease and child molestation suffering, so to speak. When a person has been molested as a child, he's got a different look about him or her. If you take notice of some of these children on here that's been molested by these crooked cults, they have a different look about them. A child molested has a different look. They're far away. They're not there with you. But it's not their fault. They're not there with you because this is what that kind of carrying on brings on. It's like a disease. It does not leave you. I've seen a XJW on here giving a talk. I won't never mention his name. But this fella was such a beautiful looking child. And he still is. But he looked different than boys I've seen. He looked more feminine. He looked more, I don't know. I just can't give the right words for it, friends, but what I'm saying is he looked different. He looked different. He didn't look like a child that I've seen that was never molested. He didn't look like that. He looked like something that had happened to him. He looked like something that was holding something in him. He looked very quiet. And he was very quiet. But he gave a video on here, and I don't know, many of you probably have seen it. But I always wondered why that boy looked so feminine. But he does. But what I'm trying to tie in, friends, is what child molestation, whether it be in a family, or whether it be some elder looking over the chairs, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Molestation done by a father, done by a relative, done by an elder, done by someone just sitting in there, it does not matter. But child molestation destroys a woman. A young lady is never the same. They cannot prove it to me. I'm speaking for myself. I've seen ladies that were molested, and it was known they were molested, and I could see it in them. Could see it in them. Now, the doctor gave me the first clue when he told me that my wife had the mind of a 12-year-old girl. And yet she was in her 20s. Well, that could be true that a lot of other people could have the same problem. But it doesn't matter. She was molested. And she did have the mind of a 12-year-old child. She did. She thought different, acted different. She did everything different. Slower about everything. never caught on to things like people in their 20s would catch on. She acted like a person 12 years old when it came to a problem. This is why I'm giving this talk, friends, is because all this molestation that is being talked about in this whole world about the Watchtower, the money that they're going to have to spend to wiggle and wiggle themselves, not out of it, but wiggle while they're in it, they're never going to get out of it because it's always going to be there. But sooner or later, justice comes. And you're going to see all kinds of stuff on TV. And you're going to see money paid out galore. Galore. And it couldn't happen to a nicer publishing company than the Watchtower. But friends, what I'm really trying to say is child molestation destroys young women while they're children, and it will follow them the rest of their lives. I'm hoping I'm wrong. But in my life, I'm talking about in my life, I was not wrong. I lived it, ate it, slept it, and drank it. Child molestation. I married a beautiful lady, but in the mind, she was only 12 years old, and she could never accept life like a grown person accepts life. She was like a child. But this is what child molestation does, friends. And all this stuff you're hearing that's coming out of the Watchtower, some ladies are going to pay the cost. They're going to pay the cost when they get married and have children. They're going to have their problems. I hope it ends and never happens. But it's going to happen. If it happened to me, it's going to happen to others too. I'm on here admitting what happened to my wife. I lived it. I lived it. I've seen my wife for 61 years. I've seen it. And for these bastards to get on here and defend child molestation, two-witness rule, this kind of crap, that's all it is crap. And the only reason they're getting out of all this stuff is because they got the damn money to do it. But eventually, justice will prevail. It has always happened in my life that I know of, friends. You can get away with something wrong so long, it eventually comes out in the wash. Child molestation going on in the Watchtower is going to be coming out, and it's going to be soon. Because people will eventually get justice, even though this old world is wicked, rotten, corrupt. Even though it's all those things, it still has justice. Even though Satan, as they say, runs this world, he still can't stop justice from coming. Not everyone gets justice, but most of us do. And one of the reasons, friends, I want to do this video is because I want y'all, all y'all friends out there who know me, I want you to know that what I have said on this video is the God's truth. It is the God's truth. I have no reason to lie. At my age now, I have no reason to lie. But child molestation will destroy a girl. It will destroy her. And these mothers and fathers sitting in these halls and that won't speak up because they might get shunned or thrown out of that cult, I don't think nothing of them. You're selling your own child to a cult. You're selling your own child to a cult. Do you hear me? Like I've always said, if it happened to my daughter when I was going, I would be kicking ass in the parking lot. Then I would call the state police. I felt that way then, I feel that way now. In fact, I might be worse now. But don't let no one, friends, tell you that child molestation does not harm most children. You don't have no record of that. So how in the hell can you make that conclusion? Maybe I'm wrong. But I think I'm right. I think I'm right. Because I've seen a young lady from 16 years old up to 77 the day she died. I've seen her. And I've seen her face till she died. And she was molested. That destroyed her whole life. Her whole life was destroyed. Of course, that's not what killed her. The Alzheimer's disease killed her, but it doesn't matter. That saves the time anyway. But, friends, I want you to take child molestation more serious now. Because I've come on here and told you the truth about what it did to my wife. And I just had to get on here and tell somebody about it because people hate to express things like this. But I don't mind doing it now because my wife has passed on. And here I sit now by myself. And to still have a daughter that's in that cult, she don't believe it. She doesn't believe it. See? See, in other words, I'm just saying this. But friends, it doesn't matter what she says. You know how it is when their minds are made up about a cult, this here cult tower. You can tell them anything, they won't believe it. They won't believe nothing you say negative about the cult tower. But friends, I hope I've helped some families on here that might even know of something like this going on. And don't think that it's just a fantasy of a dirty old man. Don't think nothing like that. It's worse than that. It is something that will be with that child the rest of her life. Or even his life. I don't know the aspect of the male side of it because I never was into that. But I was married to a lady that was molested as a child. And I saw her and I lived with her for 61 years. And I know how she acted those 61 years, friends. She told me everything. She had nothing to lose. I'm not going to be like the Judicial Committee to get into aspects of something. Let's just say she was done in by her own flesh and blood. But, friends, I want to thank all y'all who have prayed for me and my wife when she was living, and my 2 little dogs. I still got them. God love them. But friends, it's a lonely life when you lose your wife. But I'm going to close this here video by telling you the whole thing of this video. This video here is telling you a fact of life that I lived it. I know what it is to be married to a lady that was molested. For 61 years, I lived with that lady. And how about the thousands of young ladies out there in this cult tower today? They're going to face the same thing that my wife faced. They're going to face the same thing, friends. And I just hope Satan's world, Satan's judiciary committee will get them bastards eventually. And sometimes I really believe that Satan's judiciary committee is more lenient, or not more lenient, but more just than the cult tower. Because the cult tower is supposed to be just the opposite. But they are so damn hard line, it makes me sick. I don't see how anyone in the world could believe that nonsense that they talk. Fred, that's all I'm going to say for now. I think I've said enough. It's been over a half an hour now. But whatever you do, fight against child molesters. Because it destroys ladies' lives, or young fellows' lives in there too. It destroys their lives. And God knows what's waiting down the road for all these ones that have yet to be brought out in this cult tower. How in the world could something like this go on and we do nothing about it? Thank you, friends. And I'll be back some other time. There's one other subject that I really want to talk about. And it's about jobs. How does this cult never talk about a job? They never talk about making a living. And yet they always want that money. But they never talk about a job. They never talk about making a living, paying a bill. You never heard them talk about that, see. But I want to cover that subject, and boy, I'm going to lay it out on them too. Thank you, friends, and good night.